So the new trailer has come out for the new Logan film, aka Wolverine 3. Initial trailer is very atmospheric, and it just gives us a bit of a feel of the movie and what's to come in this Wolverine story. This story will borrow from the Old Man Logan series. This is Hugh Jackman's last hurrah as the character, and it's also like a passing of the torch to X-23's character. So yeah, as I said, this is very atmospheric. It's got some very interesting elements being shown. I think the trailer revealed a lot of things that I think fans already know. So this video is really going to be basically telling you guys what I think the movie will be revealing and how this story is going to go. I will warn you, there is possibly potential spoilers ahead. If you don't want to know anything about the movie, then you should probably go watch something else and then come back. So yeah, let's get to it. The trailer and the promotional material that have come out for this movie have asked the question, where are all of the mutants? And this is the first thing I'm going to tackle. In the Old Man Logan story, basically Wolverine was actually responsible for killing all of the mutants. Basically, all of the supervillains banded together in order to kill all of the mutants. And this is how I think the movie will open. And as you can see, the movie will close with Wolverine being encased in adamantium, which is borrowed quite heavily from the death of Wolverine. And the reason why I think this is the reason, because the character would begin where he ended. Wolverine's origins really take place all the way back to Weapon X. That ending would be a really good way to end his character. Now, the problem is with adapting the Old Man Logan story, it used quite a lot of Avengers characters. And obviously, 20th Century Fox don't have the rights to the Avengers. So I think we're gonna see a bit of switching around with a few characters. And I think that's what we're seeing with Professor Xavier. Basically, Professor Xavier is taking the Hawkeye character in the Old Man Logan story, and basically discovers X-23, discovers she's very similar to Logan, and tries to have Logan protect X-23 from the Reaver characters who are chasing after her. Now, Hawkeye does die in the Old Man Logan story, and I think that's what we're gonna see happen with Professor Xavier. I think Professor Xavier is gonna die at some point during the film, and that's gonna lead to Logan's resolve in the film. Okay, so the origins of X-23 is gonna be a long one. I think that the origin story is gonna be used quite heavily from Innocence Lost, which basically was a comic book that explained everything about the origins of X-23. Origins of X-23 actually date all the way back to that post-credit scene that we saw at the end of X-Men Apocalypse. And it also does connect to the origins of Wade Wilson, and the origins of Wade Wilson is also going to connect to the villain's side of things. So let's sort of explain this in the best way possible. So we know from the post-credit scenes in X-Men Apocalypse, during the cleanup in the 80s, where the X-Men basically broke Wolverine out of confinement, the Essex Corp basically stepped in and picked up several vials of the Wolverine's blood. Now Essex Corp is supposed to connect to the Mr. Sinister character, who is basically like this evil geneticist who experiments on mutants. And I think Essex Corp is basically this huge corporation that gave Deadpool his powers and will also somehow create the Reaver villains that we see during the film. Now these vials are then used to create the X-23 character, and X-23 is then discovered by Wolverine and Professor Xavier. Now, as I said before, I think that the origins of X-23 are gonna be used quite heavily in explaining the origins of the X-23 character. Now, I think we did see some of the X-23 characters sort of showing off her powers, at least in the trailers that I remember seeing. So, I think we are definitely going to see an adaptation of the early stories for Laura. Deadpool are also connected to the origins of X-23, and the Essex Corp is basically the corporation behind the events of this movie. And I do think Deadpool is very, very important in explaining how this apocalyptic society began. The Reavers are basically going, during the trailer, are going after Laura. And basically Wolverine and Professor Xavier are trying to protect this child. So I think the Reavers came out of the project that created Deadpool. I think where Deadpool was created, that was but one of several other facilities connected to the Essex Corporation. So I think the Reavers were basically created from one of these experiment labs, agents of Mr. Sinister. And I think Donald Pierce and his Reavers are supposed to be very similar to like the Hulks in the storyline. And I do think Caliban will be part of this roster. But I think Caliban will actually smuggle X-23 and give X-23 to Professor Xavier. So yeah, that's how I think the story will play out. So as you can see in front of you, this is the entire thought process that created this little theory about how the movie's gonna go. There's a lot more to this, and if you want to see the full scope of how this affecting the overall X-Men series, please go to my Geek Lore Facebook page, where you will see the full scope of how this would affect the X-Men series. So if you want to see more of these images, please click the Facebook page below. So comment below on what you think, how well you thought the trailer was. I thought the trailer was pretty good. And I shall speak to you all very soon for something else. Bye.